Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And I have Jim Blinck with us today, Operations Manager for Hillsborough County Code Enforcement. Boy, that's a long title.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Jim, you've been with me before. We had a lot of fun last time you were here explaining what code enforcement is. But let's just talk about that again, because it's been a while. What is code enforcement?
Code enforcement is an agency that's dedicated to either maintaining or improving the quality of life for citizens in Hillsborough County.
And that means?
That means,
I mean, that's one of those mission statements.
Right, right.
But what does it
We're
mean?
the agency
How do you impact upon the people in Hillsborough County?
Okay. Obviously, every neighborhood probably has a neighbor that's not really a good neighbor. They have the junk car out there on jacks in front of on the driveway, or they have accumulations, or they haven't cut the grass in a month, and we're the agency that the citizen can call to go out, make contact with the property owner, explain to the property owner that there's a code violation that exists on his property, and we're asking that property owner to abate that violation. Whether it's cut the grass, remove the accumulations, or tag or license the vehicle on the driveway.
If I have a vehicle sitting on my driveway, it's all on my property, it's within the 25 feet or whatever is from the road or whatever, do I have to have a tag on that?
Any vehicle that you have on your property has to be tagged and have a current registration, okay? Whether it's a domestic vehicle, I'm talking about a car or a pickup truck, if it's an RV, a recreational vehicle, whether it's self-contained motorhome or a camper trailer, or if it's a boat on a trailer, or if it's a utility trailer, it's required to have a current tag and registration.
So if it's visible from the street, what if I have it in my garage?
If it's in your garage, then you don't have to have it tagged or registered.
Okay.
But if it's parked externally on the property, where it's in the front or the back, it's required to be tagged and have a current registration.
I notice a lot with some of our snowbirds that we have a lot of cars sitting out with canvases over them or covers over them.
Right.
Does that abate it?
Not really, because I can...
You can't see whether they have one, but...
No, but I can check the DMV, and they'll let me know if there's, what current tags and registrations are listed at that address.
Mostly you're looking for junk cars, though, correct?
I'm looking for something
that are causing a
that's
problem
been sitting there a while. It's usually parked in the front yard. The grass is growing up underneath it. It's obviously that it's not running, or it's jacked up on jack stands, and there's no, there's no train. You can look down. There's no transmission evident. Those are the kinds of nuisances we're really looking for. Something that's just causes a public nuisance for the neighbors.
Just makes everything look sad.
Right. It's it's that broken window theory, that there's an in-up vehicle, the grass is growing up, the trash is laying all over the yard, and it makes the whole rest of the neighborhood, look unkept.
It is an important theory you just brought up, because I was immediately mindful of Disney's thought that they have all these people picking stuff up. Because if the neighborhood looks nice, Disney,
right,
people aren't as likely to throw a piece of paper on the ground.
Exactly.
If it doesn't look good and there's already all kind of trash down, people are more likely to make the rest of the neighborhood look that way.
And it also, if somebody wants to move into the neighborhood, that's the first thing they're going to notice. They may decide that the house down the street for sale is not somewhere they want to live because of the condition that's down the street with the junk vehicle and the accumulations and the unkept lawn. So,
Jim, the last time you were on the program, we talked about the idea that code enforcement, and by the way, that was, for the listener, that was during the time when we were having a lot of houses go on repossession, people walking away from them. Maybe part of the pig is already through the python now, and it's not quite the problem it was 2 years ago. But there's still a problem out there. And one of the things you mentioned at the time was that you were kind of hamstrung. You could go out and put a notice on somebody's door. 30 days later, you could send them another notice. Then you could go to a hearing. It might get scheduled 2 months later. And then if they were told to do something and they didn't do it, you had to bring them back in. So we're looking at 6 months to get the grass cut.
Right. Right.
And people are wondering, why isn't code enforcement doing anything? And you are.
Right. Yeah, we've just recently had a property preservation ordinance passed by the Board of County Commissioners. It now allows us to go on the property. It also allows us to cut the grass to secure that swimming pool if the house is unsecured.
And to charge the property owner.
And to charge the property owner. Property owners don't realize when they've walked away from the property because the mortgage company has sent them a letter of intent to foreclose, that until the mortgage company takes title of the property, they are still responsible for that property. They're still responsible to cut the grass, keep it clean, keep the house secured, and if there's a swimming pool, maintain the swimming pool.
We're not here in any way, shape, or form to give legal advice.
No.
And we will quick to tell you, go talk with your attorney on anything you hear here. I think that's an important factor to get that off the table.
Yeah.
But when they tell you they're going to foreclose, that doesn't mean they will.
No, it doesn't.
And if you leave that home, you're still responsible for it, correct?
It is still your home.
So
You
if the
still
pool
have title
goes
to the
green
property.
or the screens blow out and this becomes a public nuisance, it isn't the bank's problem until they actually take title, right?
Right. I'm going to send a notice to the property owner. Whoever's the property owner of record will get the notice from us. And I've heard that. I've left the property. I haven't been there in 2 years. And I'll tell them, I understand that, but you are still listed as the property of record, and the code still holds you responsible. We live in Florida's a mortgage state, which means that the lien holder doesn't have title to your property. You do, until they take steps to foreclose and take title of that property.
You know, not being a lawyer, again, it would seem to me that if I were in that position, when the bank sent me that letter, I'd say when the sheriff comes with papers to get me out of here, I'd be glad to leave. But until then, I'm staying.
Absolutely.
Because I'm still responsible for it, correct? I mean, again,
I'm
you're not
sure
a lawyer,
an
and I'm
attorney
not
would
asking
probably
for legal advice, but
would probably tell somebody that it's just they're just in violation of their contract. They have a contract with the lien holder for the mortgage, and they're in violation of that contract. But the lien holder has to take steps to enforce that contract, and that would be through civil action.
so if I'm responsible for that property still, I'm not leaving until the bank gives me papers saying they're responsible. At least that would make sense to me. Now, although you lawyers out there, if you know something different, let us know. But it seems reasonable to me, because if you're going to charge me for coming on my property and doing things and not charge the bank, who has just told me they're thinking about taking it, then I'm still responsible and ought to be there to see it. So how do you let these people know that you're going to take action?
We'll send them a notice. If it's not immediate threat to us is an unsecured swimming pool or a vacant structure or an open septic tank. In Hillsborough County, there are a lot of septic tanks. We have the ordinance gives us the ability to go and immediately abate that. So whatever that cost is going to be passed on to the property owner. But after I abate it, I'm going to notify that property owner that I had to go on his property and abate that immediate threat. Now, if it's not immediate threat, if it's just something, overgrowth, a falling fence, or accumulations, I'm going to send him a notice. I'm going to look in the public record to see where his mailing address, and I'm going to send him a notice. If he doesn't want me to abate that, then he has a choice to come and take care of the problem.
So this is a lot different than it used to be, where you could be tied up for 6 months before you could ever get the grass cut, let alone anything else.
Exactly. It's for vacant property. If it's occupied, no, I can't go abate the problem, but I'm going to notify the resident, whether it's a tenant or the owner, hey, you've got a problem here. We want you to take care of it. But yeah, this is a new ordinance, and it allows me to go on the property. Before, I could only go to the front door, or I could go to the neighbor's property to view something that was in the backyard. Now I can actually go on the property, walk around the property. I can even go inside the structure to make sure there's nothing there that would need immediate abatement.
I've known of neighbors going on, because it looks so bad, and going on a property and cutting somebody else's grass or cleaning it up or doing whatever. To me, that seems dangerous. You have something here that says you have the authority to do that and the protection to do that.
Exactly.
But if someone else goes on that property to cut grass, besides the one that owns it or you who have the protection, They're putting themselves at risk, are they not?
They're trespass. Trespass. Everybody has a right to go to the front door, but you're not allowed to go beyond that point. Other than that, then you're trespassing.
That's not a good thing.
No, it's not. I mean, the owner could come in and swear out a trespass warrant against you and take you to civil court for trespass.
Well, a rock flies from the mower and breaks a window, or you go over a cable and cut some
or you get hurt yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be careful. You don't know what's on these properties. You don't know there could be snakes in there. It could be a poisonous snake. There could be holes that you trip in and fall. I mean, there's a host of things that could be on that property.
Open cesspools?
Open septic tank, absolutely. You just don't know.
That doesn't sound like fun at all.
Especially if the grass gets pretty high, you're not going to know what's there.
You have a new program going on for using the federal funds to help you with neighborhoods too, Jim.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
That's our program called Fight the Blight. And we've directed that program to areas in the county that we get government funding. It's called CDBG. That's Community Development Block Grant funding for areas in the county. And those federal dollars that come to pay for that. So we've targeted these neighborhoods, to go in these neighborhoods to upgrade the housing conditions, to anywhere from cutting grass to removing accumulations. We're giving the homeowners or the property owners or the tenants the ability, we're having dumpsters on site, so if they've got some accumulation, they can bring it in. We're partnering with the Sheriff's Department to use community service workers to help in that program as well. They load the dumpsters. We get the neighbors to bring it to the dumpster site that we've designated, and they'll load the dumpsters. If they're not able to get it to the dumpsters, we have trailers. The community service workers will load those trailers. We'll either take it to the dumpster or we'll take it to a designated solid waste site.
And community service workers here are people who have been told by the court you will do X number of hours of community service. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's, and they're fulfilling that obligation by doing that, and they're doing a community service. So,
I've often wondered why we don't do that more.
We need to.
We put too many people in jail. We have more people in jail per capita in the United States than communist China does. I mean, we just can't keep building jails. Let's make those people work. Maybe they won't want to go back.
Exactly, and you never know the contacts they make by doing that. It may lead to a better job. You just never know.
And in jail, a better crook. You never can tell.
But we're thankful, that they're that they come out and help us out. I mean, they've told us they really get satisfaction by doing that. And
Sheriff
we use those
G
on those
provides
vacant
these
properties.
workers?
Pardon me?
The Sheriff's Department provides these workers, Sheriff G's?
Yeah, it's a program through the Sheriff's Department through the court system. So they bring them out to the site and they take them back as well.
How many areas do you go to? Have you been to quite a number of areas here in Hillsborough County, or is it
all throughout the county? Yeah, it's from Brandon to Town and Country to Carrollwood to Riverview to Ruskin. We've done it in all parts of the county.
You say a block grant, and that makes me think that we're going to clean up this block.
No, it's actually a designated area that's been designated by the Affordable Housing Section as a CDBG area. There's a portion in USF. There's a area out in Town and Country. Most of 33615 in Town and Country. In USF, it's 33613. Palm River, 33619. Out in Dover, and I'm not sure what the zip code is out there, but there's a section out in Dover, Claremelle, Gibsonton, Ruskin, and I think the other one is
Ruskin looks like a pretty good area.
But there are areas.
Are there some areas that are blighted?
There are some kind of depressed areas in Ruskin that has been designated as CDBG areas, and we have 5 positions that are actually funded through that program.
What would qualify as a blighted area? What were some of the things? So if you're watching this, maybe your area or an area will qualify. What are some of the things that would
It's
qualify
like
them?
it's like you drive down the street and you see abandoned houses. There are a lot of abandoned houses out there now. The banks are doing a much better job than they were 2 years ago, but there's still a lot of abandoned properties out there that, especially now with school being out, they're just a public nuisance for the kids.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I'm talking about the vacant house that's unsecured. There's broken windows. There's huge accumulations in the yard. The grass hasn't been cut in weeks. And also we have another program that we kind of target too. It's called SAFE. It's Safe Areas for Education. So 1 mile around an elementary school or junior high school, we also will target that for that program. So any schools that are in those target areas that are within 1 mile, that's another factor we look at that we need to go in and clean up that community.
An empty house anywhere near a school could be a real problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Predators.
Yeah. When I was a kid, you know, that was an attractive nuisance
Oh,
to me and my
yeah?
buddies. We knew all the vacant houses in the neighborhood. It was just a natural attraction, you know, something to get involved with, you know. So yeah, kids haven't changed.
A place to hang out.
Absolutely. So
But it's also a place that a kid could be drug off to.
absolutely, and the drug use and you know, it's on and on and on. It's just not a safe environment for a child to be in.
And drug use today is a whole lot worse than it was when I was coming up.
Same with me. So, yeah, it's just we want to target those areas and eliminate any possible issues that may come up with something like that.
A lot of people look at code enforcement and get it confused with building codes. You really don't, other than when you're condemning a property,
Right.
you don't really get into the building codes area, correct?
Our property maintenance code does address minimum requirements, okay? That the dwelling has to meet minimum requirements. It's not necessarily meets the Florida building code today, but it does meet the property maintenance code.
For health and safety.
Health and safety. We've also adopted in that same code, we'll also adopt issues dealing with commercial buildings. You know, the tenant that leases the building, if the plumbing's not working properly, if he's got a leaky roof or some issue like that, he now has an agency he can contact that we can, you know, go out, we'll look at the property and we can get the property owner to correct those substandards.
That's something we didn't cover at all on the last
No,
broadcast.
I mean,
I wasn't even aware you could do that.
Right. Back in
So
'09, when we adopted the property maintenance code, we also added commercial buildings. And we've used it in conjunction with the building department. But in the past, we didn't have anything to address those kind of substandard conditions in commercial buildings, and now we do.
So if I'm renting a building, I've got you to go to if I have a problem?
Right, like today, you've got a leaky roof and you can't get the property owner to respond to fix the leaky roof. You can contact our agency, we'll go out, we'll inspect the unit, and then we'll send a notice to the property owner, let him know that he's responsible for fixing that leaking roof. Or the,
Really?
Yes, or the plumbing, if the bathrooms don't work, you can contact us. They have to have functional bathrooms, you know, the basic requirements for a structure, you know. Sound wall, sound roof, you know, facilities for the occupants that work there. If there's electrical issues, we'll address that as well. But yeah, it's just a basic, you know, property maintenance requirement, and it applies to commercial buildings now,
Well,
as
that's
well as
interesting, 'cause
dwellings.
I always think of code enforcement being primarily on just residential dwellings.
right.
But
We've
this
had-
gives you a whole different arm.
Things change. We've had to adapt, and I think we've done a pretty good job so far to adapt to the problems that we have in this county.
How big is code enforcement as far as numbers? Do you know roughly how many people are in code enforcement?
I've got 33 field inspectors, and I have 4 supervisors.
33.
33 field inspectors, right.
That's quite a, well, it's not really when you consider the
No,
size of this
the
county. This is
county
huge.
is a big county. It's a huge
Now-
county.
Now, do you have responsibility in the city of Tampa also?
No, we're not responsible for City of Tampa, City of Temple Terrace, or the city of Plant City.
Well, I take some chunk out of it
Yeah,
at
it does,
least.
unincorporated. It's still almost 1,000 square miles.
And they have their own
They have their own
organization similar
right.
to you.
Yeah, exactly. And we talk to each other. When we'll do a project together. We did a Fight the Blight in Orient Park and Grant Park. Part of Grant Park is in the city of Tampa. We went and partnered with the city of Tampa Code Enforcement Department and did a project. It was about a 2-week project, and exactly how I explained it. We set out dumpsters. We allowed the residents to come bring their debris, and you know, we cleaned up that whole community.
We've kind of talked about what you can do for the community, but what can the community do for code enforcement? How can people react and respond to you properly and get you the information you need?
Well, there's a couple of ways they can do it. They can phone in. We take anonymous complaints. They can give us.
Oh, it can be anonymous?
Oh, anonymous complaints.
Don't have to, nobody's sitting there noting the phone number that called in or anything?
No. You know, you have to leave us a name. I'm not going to copy your phone number down, but it can be anonymous. And give us as much information as possible. If you're calling in the house next door that's vacant, let them know it's been vacant. Let them know how long it's been vacant, if they know that. If it's been vacant a week, 2 weeks, or a month, all that information is helpful to the investigator when he goes out there.
A lot of people have email addresses and other things for neighbors.
Correct.
That when they move away, they don't change their email address. Well, some do because they've got creditors looking for them.
Yeah.
But many of them don't. So having that information would be very valuable, wouldn't it?
Or just tell us if they know where they moved. If they moved to Rhode Island or Ohio, that's helpful. Then it narrows our research to try to find these people. But they can also file a complaint over the web, you know, and it can also be anonymous. But the most important thing is just give us as much information as possible. There's many times when I go out in the field, I go talk to the neighbors. The neighbors know a lot of more information than I'm able to get just by going to the property. And so I'll interview the neighbors. In the past, I've had to depend on the neighbors to let me in their backyard to even view the violation. Now it's a vacant property. I don't have to bother them to do that, but that's probably the most important thing they can do is just try to give us as much information as possible.
Now, I'm assuming that you all have proper ID when you go out into the field and knock on that door.
There's no law that says you have to answer your door. But if you look out there, all the code enforcement guys wear uniforms that are distinctly have the county emblem on them.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, absolutely. They have an ID badge. I would recommend ask for that ID badge. Get their name. They all have cards. Get a card so you know who you're dealing with. So when you want to call to get a status, you know who you're talking to. You've met that person, face to face. They can also go to our webpage and find out the status of the case that property they called in a complaint about. They can do it by listing the address or the tax folio number. If they know the owner's name, they can put their owner's name and they can check the status of that case.
So all that information is on the web?
It's on the web, right. The ordinances, you can read the ordinances, it's on the web, except for the Land Development Code. That's on Muni Code. They can view that. Muni Code is M-U-N-I-C-O-D-E, Muni Code. It's a private web page, but it lists all the...
Is that .com or?
.com, right. And it lists all the, go to Hillsborough County, and it lists the Land Development Code, and it'll list all the zoning issues that pertain to a neighborhood.
Of course, most of us, our eyes glaze over when we start reading all that stuff.
Oh, I know.
It's the where-tos and here-to-fors, and
right.
all that gets very confusing.
And I'll tell people, call our office, talk to an investigator. They can many times they have access to me. I'll be glad to talk to them and explain the code to them. They might not like what I'm telling them, but I'll explain to them, what the code is.
Yeah, I remember my first call to your office.
Yeah.
They were very, very helpful, but I didn't like what they told me. Because that was during the days that it takes 6 months to get grass cut.
Yes.
It's a lot better today.
It is, but if we're talking about an occupied property, I still have to go through due process.
Oh, you're kidding?
No.
That's
no,
6 months?
I still have to send you a notice, and then I still have to re-inspect it, and then I still submit it to be scheduled for a hearing. There's only 2 hearings a month. One is before a code board, which is 5 members or more, or special magistrate. They both have the same authority. They both have the authority to place a fine and lien against any property you own in the county for as long as that violation exists. But I still have to afford you due process.
And due process for forever. You go through
Yeah.
a whole summer that way with grass yay high.
You could. And I feel if we've got communication with the property owner and we haven't convinced them that it's in his best interest to comply, then I have failed the neighbors. I've even failed him, because now I have to take him to a hearing and to try to motivate him to comply with the code.
Jim, some people just don't care. It's a shame, but they
I don't want to think that way. I hope that anybody that owns any property in the county would care enough about their property to at least maintain it, especially if they have neighbors.
And all of us hope that would be true also, but as I look around, I see a lot. I really appreciate your coming on the show today.
I'm glad to do it.
And as new programs come up and new things come about and changes are made, I hope you'll plan to come back.
I would very much like to come back, sure.
I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often, because you are, you know. And we're really looking forward to having you back. And tell Dexter, who is your boss and runs the operation, that I'd love to have him sitting in the chair beside you.
I'll tell him that. We'll
I'd
come
love to
back
have
together.
him in. He's always welcome. He's got an open invitation.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. We'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And again, Jim, thanks for being here. We'll look forward to having you back.
Great, thanks.